Okay, so I'm going to talk about, like you said, how to set up your developers for success and how to grow your team in the process. Notch 8, where I work, has a long-time strategy of hiring less experienced developers from unique backgrounds and successfully growing our developers for long-term success. We've been evolving our strategies over time, and this talk is about some of the strategies that we are using now. I'm Leanne Bradford, and I'm a senior software developer for Notch 8, and my pronouns are she, her. And I want to go in a little bit about why I am talking about this. So I am a career changer. My previous career was as a full-time mom, and I did that for a long time, more than 10 years. And when I was ready to re-enter the paid workforce, I chose to learn software development, and I went to a coding boot camp. And a part of that boot camp, I worked for 4 weeks as an intern, and my internship was with Notch 8. And at the end of my internship, I was offered a job, and I was absolutely thrilled with the chance to work as a full-time developer. When I started at Notch 8, we were a really small team. So there was 3 senior developers, and then there was me as far as our developer staff went. I was definitely the most junior as far as technical skills were concerned, but I was also the oldest person on the team. And I was in a really unique situation that allowed imposter syndrome to really blossom. So here I was, I had a lot of professional experience. I had a lot of volunteer and nonprofit experience, as well as a lot of life experience that I was bringing to the job. But I was starting in an entry-level role. I definitely had a lot of confidence issues, and it was compounded by the fact that working as a developer is really hard. So it's not the kind of job where you have a recipe that you're going to follow, or where you have 10 steps that if you perform in the exact same order, you're going to have success. You have to be part detective, you have to be part artist, and you have to be a puzzle solver. And with all of that, you also have to have technical skills. So for me, when I first started, I actually was caught up very much in the classic imposter syndrome cycle. Just to go briefly over what that cycle is, it's like you start off with excitement, and then you kind of leads into dread and worry and even panic. Then you do your work, you have success, then you're relieved, and then you start to focus on your failures or your shortcomings, and then you deny your own success. So I spent about the first year of my time at Notch 8 caught up in that cycle. I would wake up super excited about my job. I absolutely loved it. But on my commute into the office, I would start thinking, okay, today is the day they're going to figure out I'm a total fraud and they're going to fire me. I just felt that way every morning. And I'd go into work and I would just focus on getting through one task at a time. And at the end of the day, I'd be like, wow, I did it. I'm actually programming. This is the greatest thing in the world. And I think, I must be doing something right. I made it through another day. And then on my drive home, I start to doubt my success. I would focus on my mistakes, and I'd start to doubt my success, and then that cycle would continue. So unfortunately, I really suffered through that in silence. And it was totally unnecessary. I was afraid to mention how I was feeling because I thought that I was going to lose the job that I loved. But my teammates were really, really understanding, and they always supported me, and they were there to help me as much as I needed it. So I think if you ask anyone who works for Notch 8, they're going to tell you the same thing, that our company culture and our team support is the best part of our jobs. So I was able to learn and grow in a really supportive environment. And I was determined that as we added new developers to our team, I wanted to do as much as I could to help them avoid some of the same issues that I had when I was first starting. And that's why I've taken a special interest in this topic. So today I'm going to share a little bit about what I learned from my experience and how I think that 2 big parts of our company culture have helped to successfully grow our developers and set them up for success. I'm going to mention some of the ideas from our team that help to grow our talent and to retain our team members. So you might find that these things aren't going to work for you in your environment, but maybe they'll spark some ideas that you can share with your team. And maybe you can take away some of the key parts of our company culture that will allow you to come up with your own ideas. So I'm going to start with attracting and hiring talent, talk about some of our specific success strategies that we are using, I'm going to talk about our mentorship culture, a little bit about the responsibilities and things of mentors and mentees, and then I'm going to talk about job autonomy. So attracting talent. Recent US labor statistics show major concerns about the talent shortage. By the end of 2020, there's 1.4 million unfilled tech jobs. Meanwhile, the number of computer science graduates is only 400,000 per year. So you can see there's a huge gap there. Companies are really going to need to continue to struggle with staffing if this software developer shortage keeps growing at the same pace. It's really important to attract talent and to keep your talent because the gap between the tech talent supply and demand is growing. And trying to fill senior roles is actually even more difficult. So Notch 8 got really creative when trying to find new developers. They were experiencing this problem years ago, and they were noticing that similar companies were going through the same problems. If you didn't know it already, our founders opened up a coding bootcamp about 7 years ago, and that opened up opportunities for many people from non-traditional backgrounds to get the training they needed to start a job in software development. But more importantly, it gave Notch 8 a great talent pool to recruit from. So this was able to solve the first step of the talent problem for Notch 8. But once you have hired your new developers, there's the challenge of leveling up their tech skills. And then once you level up the tech skills, keeping them so they don't jump ship and go somewhere else. So tenure for software developers at small companies is only 1.5 years. So I'm going to quickly go over some of our particular strategies that have helped us grow our developers. They may or may not work in your specific setting, right? But it might give you some ideas for some of the things that we're doing to help grow our developers and to keep them engaged and keep them excited about staying at Notch 8. So first off, we do one-on-ones. And you might think, well, that's a pretty common thing. Managers do one-on-ones with their team all the time. But in our case, we've expanded it to do peer-to-peer one-on-ones. Developers, when they're at the same level or near the same level, they can really share their struggles with each other. They have good perspective that the more senior folks might not have, that they might have forgotten about. It helps with our team chemistry. So especially in our remote work environment that we're all going through right now, we've always been a remote-friendly company, and it really helped us transition into remote work for everyone, but there's still a bit of distance, and that's hard to overcome because you're not able to maybe chat at the water cooler or have lunch together in the lunch area. So this is one small way that we have that helps with this. We also have mentor-mentee one-on-ones. This gives an opportunity for our junior developers to have one-on-ones on a monthly basis with the more experienced developer that isn't their manager. So there's a little bit of trust that you have with that. Again, it helps as well with our team chemistry. It's part of our mentorship culture. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about that in a few minutes. And finally, we have our manager developer one-on-ones. And this helps our developers talk about any issues that are coming up, and it allows us to address any issues before they become big problems. Because the managers they're going to see patterns. And if they see those patterns, then we can address it. In addition to one-on-ones, we have daily office hours. All of our senior developers have an hour each week that we devote to helping out anyone on the team that needs it. So we have a Zoom room set up, and if you need help, or sometimes if you just want to drop in and say hi, you can do that, and you just drop in on the meeting. This is really especially helpful for fresh perspectives on the team. A lot of times someone might be stuck and their project lead isn't available, and they can just drop in and ask for help. And that not only keeps the developers moving forward, it also gets our senior developers familiar with projects that they aren't scheduled to normally work on. We're even thinking about possibly expanding the office hours to other developers so that developers that aren't senior developers, like a mid-level developer, might be able to expand their skill set as well. So another thing that we have, we've always had weekly learn time, and we've been expanding on it a little bit. So Notch 8's always had about up to 8 hours each week that we're allowed to, that's part of our schedules that we're dedicating to learning. Sometimes we might be using up some of this learned time to do non-billable tasks like upgrading our computers or installing new software, but the bulk of that time is really to be used to learn about new technologies and things that we might be interested in learning about. But recently we've started a weekly workshop for the team as part of that to make it a more formal experience. So every week a team member can volunteer to teach the rest of the team about new technologies or any skills that they might want to share. So for example, we've had workshops on Kubernetes, Hotwire, and we also do career focus workshops and have things like how to write your own bio. This has been a great way to level up our whole team on new topics and to address things that maybe the whole team might be struggling with. But it really gives all of our developers a chance to level up their skills. So there's really no better way to learn about something than to teach it to others. And that's been really successful for us. I'm going to talk now about our mentorship culture. So you might be thinking, hey, all those ideas are really nice, but there's no way my organization is going to agree to do some of those things. And that might be true, but the key concept behind these strategies is one of our core company values, and that's we strive to have a mentorship culture. And I want to talk about what does that mean to have a mentorship culture. It doesn't mean just starting up a formal mentorship program, assigning mentors and mentees, and then saying, okay, off you go do the mentoring, because that's not going to work. So for us, it's a mentorship mindset that we try to have to be included as part of everything we do. So being a mentor at Notch 8 starts on day one. When juniors first start, their primary focus is really going to be on themselves and just getting their tech skills leveled up. I mean, let's face it, jumping into Samvera, it's really daunting when you're new. But we also find that we can put our junior developers in a position to mentor others. So formally, this might be in mentoring an intern. So we do have interns several times a year, and we find that our more junior members of our team are much better at mentoring the interns, and they do a lot better job at it than our senior developers do. And they just can relate better to them. They're closer to the struggles and understanding being in the same position. Another informal way that our junior developers might find themselves mentoring can be teaching one of our Friday Learn sessions. So like I said before, there's no better way to learn something than to teach it to others. And we just expect mentorship out of everyone on the team, not just the senior folks. We also have a culture of open communication. So we welcome open communication without judgment. Notch 8 strives to be a safe space for everyone at every level to share their ideas as well as their struggles. So chances are, if one of us is feeling something such as burnout, for example, there's probably a lot of other people on the team that are feeling the same way. And we like to keep that communication open so that we can problem solve around things that come up like that. Also, a part of our mentorship culture that's important is that it drives innovation. So it's because we have that culture that continuously promotes collaboration, and that collaboration can lead to innovation solutions to problems that pop up. For all of the things I mentioned on the previous screen, those were innovations that were brought up from our team. So from interns to apprentices, all the way up to our senior developers, if we have an idea, we're encouraged to pursue it. The innovation on our team is not limited to management. Our mentorship culture really helps encourage all of us to explore our ideas. It helps us to set personal and career goals, and it helps us to be accountable and to stay on track to achieve our goals. So everyone on our team has the power to bring their ideas in front of the whole team, where we can discuss them and we can decide if we want to implement and try them out. Having the mentorship culture really, I believe, increases our developer promotion and our retention. So while we have some developers that leave closer to that 1.5 year mark, most of our team stays much longer. And most of us started as interns, apprentice, or junior developers and worked our way up to mid-level and now senior level positions. I'm going to talk a little bit about mentorship, kind of aside from that. There's many different types of mentorship. There's like informal mentorship, and then there's formal mentorship. So at Notch 8, we really don't have a structured mentorship program aside from our internships and our assigned one-on-ones. We don't have like a formal program that we follow specific steps. But your organization may or may not have mentorship as well, a program as well. But you can be a successful mentor or mentee with anyone. I also want to point out that even if you don't want to be a mentor, you probably already are one. You might be setting an example as an unconscious mentor. Whether you like it or not, you're having an impact on other people. So I know, for example, when I'm pair programming, if we are working on a specific task and I'm not enjoying it, I tend to complain. It's really easy for me to complain about it. And that's unconscious mentorship in action, right? We all need to be conscious at all times that all of our actions are having a positive or even a negative influence. Another way you're mentoring is with informal mentorship. This might be times in your social network, at home with your family. It might be your presence on social media. So you really want to be aware of this, and you want to shift your focus from being a conscious mentor. Being a conscious mentor is when you set out to teach others, you set a good example, and you're there for others during significant events. I want to talk a little bit about being a mentee as well. If you don't have a formal mentor, you can find mentorship in a lot of places. Like you can find it in books, you can find it in motivational speakers, you can watch videos on YouTube, you can even find mentorship in art, in music, or in movies. So mentorship is out there for you to find it. But I would recommend you find someone that you want to emulate. Like you really want to find somebody whose career you want to follow, and you want to find someone who shares your values. If you're lucky enough to have a formal mentor, it's your responsibility to do your homework, to hold yourself accountable. That relationship has to be reciprocal or it's not going to work. So mentees should remain curious. They need to remain open, and they have to have a beginner's mindset. Even if you're not a beginner, you just have to keep your mind open. I think a good way I've heard of the mentor-mentee relationships described would be like a person playing fetch with a dog. The mentor has the ball, they throw it, and the ball is like the idea to go out and try. And the mentee is going to go chase after it. And then they retrieve the idea and work with it. They're going to bring it back to you. They're going to bring it back to the mentor. And that cycle is going to start over again. It's also important that every person has a slightly different way of working, and depending on our skills, our experience, even our personal preferences. So we all need to be really flexible. Mentors should strike the right balance of giving mentees time and freedom to work towards their goals as they see fit, and they want to be available at any time to provide support and advice. All right, so back to Notch 8 and how we level up our technical skills. So as far as technical guidance, it's best to kind of start small and gradually increase an individual's responsibilities and freedom as they develop their capabilities. So say we have a newly hired developer and they've decided, hey, I only want to do front-end tickets. I only want to do front-end development. It's all I'm comfortable with, and that's all I can do. So fine, we're going to do that. We're going to give them all front-end tickets to start, but we're going to gradually ease them out of their comfort zone. So we might do like introduce new tickets that are out of their comfort zone, but keep them tightly scoped. So those tickets might have step-by-step instructions on how to complete a task. For example, it might say, create a file, give it this name, put it in this location, put this code block in that file, write a test to make sure that that works. And then maybe even link to other pull requests or link to other projects where that feature might be implemented. So it's really have tight guidance for them when they first start out. But as they get more experience, our implementation instructions are going to get a little looser. So they're going to possibly say something like, Google this search term, and that's going to get you on the right path. So technically, we know for a developer to grow, they really need to learn from their mistakes and their successes. So in the beginning, we're going to give them more specific instructions to build confidence, and then we're going to slowly give less specific instructions so that they can learn for themselves. And finally, I'm going to talk about job autonomy. So another huge part of our Notch 8 culture that helps to level up our developers is our focus on job autonomy. So what does that mean? It means that we have more freedom to decide when, where, and how we do our work. So there's studies out there that show employees who experience more autonomy are more motivated, creative, and they're more satisfied with their jobs. So some organizations might consider autonomy just working hours and working location. I mean, and that's part of what we have. We work remote and we have to be available during core times in the day, but for the most part, we can work whenever we want. And we also encourage each one of us to manage our own career paths. So even though we have some things, and even then, we have some say in actually the company's strategic direction. So we have a lot more autonomy that you might have at other institutions or companies. So for an example, a few years back, I noticed that we had a lack of diversity in our hiring process, in our candidates. And I brought it up in a one-on-one with my manager, and I was encouraged to do some research on how we can get a more diverse set of candidates and for our job openings. So I, grabbed that ball and ran with it. I did some research. I gave a presentation in a company meeting to the whole team, and the whole team agreed that, yeah, let's make some changes. So I'm proud to say now, and we're a much more diverse group than we were just a few years ago. And when we're hiring now, we're going to keep our interviews open until we have underrepresented candidates as finalists. And it's been really successful for us. So there are some studies out there that show that people with more job autonomy might be less honest about their work. So at Najee, we really want to hire self-starters and problem solvers. When we're hiring, we don't spend a lot of time in our interview process. We don't spend any time in our interview process with algorithm challenges. We know we can teach people to code. We've done it time and time again. But we can't always teach them to be hard workers. So we like to hire people that we have to tell to stop working rather than people that aren't as motivated. To keep our developers on track for leveling up their skills, we've created a career ladder with detailed job descriptions for all of our positions. So a career ladder is a guide that helps you navigate through all the different positions at our company. We've categorized our skills that we want our developers to have. So it might be technology skills, it might be mentorship skills, even to community engagement. So our career ladder provides a roadmap for each of us to follow as we grow in our careers. And while that ladder is pretty specific, it really allows for leeway in how each of us decides to fulfill those requirements. So for community engagement, for example, one of us could do things like give a talk at Symvera Connect or another conference, right? But other people who are more introverted and don't want to do public speaking, they might choose to write blog posts or choose to be active on social media. So it's really up to us how to decide what works best for our skills and our personality on how we're meeting those requirements. Our career ladder has really helped us all to know what skills gaps we have. It allows us to reflect on our skills and on our goals, and it gives us benchmarks for when we can monitor our progress. So we also know it's really important for us to measure ourselves against our own benchmarks. We don't want to be comparing ourselves to other people on the team because we all have our strengths and our weaknesses and our pattern of growth. All right, so to review, in my experience, the culture of mentorship combined with our job autonomy they not only help our developers level up, but it also creates happiness and engagement. It makes us all more accountable, and therefore we want to perform at our best. It helps us employees feel more valued, and it motivates us to learn new skills, and it leads to greater productivity and a greater sense of team and organizational culture. Okay, that's it. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Leanne. There's lots of love in the Slack channel, as well as some questions already in there. So there's 3 or 4 questions here. So I'll skip mine to give others preference here. Can you share some of the changes you made to attract a more diverse pool, maybe in the Slack channel?
Oh, okay, that's a great question. Well, we were just kind of like I said, we have a secret talent pool of bootcamp grads, basically, in our sister company. And we were getting recommendations from them, and they weren't diverse. So we basically said, give us people we know there's a lot of diversity in the boot camp. So provide us not just with the traditional candidates. So we just ask for it. Other things we've done is like we've been more involved, like we went to meetups, I would say. So say we went to meetups where people were doing algorithm practice. And for example, it's a perfect example. We had one of our team members was at that meetup. She went up and she was sharing some of her work, and we noticed, wow, that's somebody we want to hire. We weren't even hiring. We made a position for her. We like snuck in, hey, we have a quick job. Can you do this? And basically it was her coding challenge. We gave her paid work as a contractor, and then she submitted it, and then we hired her. And so when we find people, we make room for them. But we went to not just our typical talent pool, but we went out and tried to engage in outside of our typical network.
Great. Now I was flagged. I missed one question up above, so I think I found it. Did all these processes come out of team retros or some other way? What mechanism do you use for iterating on them?
That's a great question too. So we do have a weekly company meeting, and each week, and we have open discussion on those. And a lot of our ideas of things that we implemented, that I gave specific strategies, were part of a retreat. We did a company retreat, and we had everyone on the team answer questions and give suggestions. And a lot of those ideas they all come from within our team.
Great. Then the next one, is this career ladder public? If so, where is it? If not, can I have it still?
I don't think it's open source. I don't see any problem with us. I would have to ask permission, but absolutely, I'd be happy to share with it. And there are a lot of career ladders out there that are open source. And if you do your research, you'll find that a lot of items on our ladder are borrowed from other companies. And we basically had some idea of the areas that we wanted to focus that were important to us. And then we went out and did research and found some of those recommendations. So, but I'm happy to share with anyone who asks. I'll follow up in the Slack and share our career ladder.
Okay. Similarly, does the career ladder also include pay raises?
Yes. And I know as part of Notch 8, we have our salaries are tied to our career ladder. So there's a salary range tied to your position. And the whole career ladder was part of the diversity and initiative that I started a few years back, it wasn't just hiring diverse people, it was keeping them. So part of that was to have a career ladder and have the salaries tied to it, so that we know we can be honest with ourselves of what level we're at, and then we can be paid accordingly. And I think that's really helped with our retention.
Great. The next question, do the senior junior titles add to the problems of people joining teams? I would have thought joining a team of 3 senior developers as a junior would be tough for most.
Well, I mean, I was lucky. I had 3 strongly skilled people to lean on. We try now to maybe have 2 or 3. Sorry, I just saw, I'm okay to share the career ladder. We just have maybe 2 or 3 junior developers or mid-level to a senior. So it's kind of lopsided. It was intimidating, but I was so excited to have that, to get that first position, that I just never wanted to do it, lose it. And I also brought skills to the team that was lacking. So one of the nice things, I was kind of hired more as a front-end developer, and the 3 senior developers they were all not very good at all at front-end development. So I was a good fit. Is a little less intimidating that way.
And I see one other question. How big is your team? Is this a company-wide set of processes? And if so, how big is the company? And Rob answered that our team is 18 people. It's pretty guerrilla. And the follow-up question was, what's the senior, mid-level, junior split? So this was the last question. That's
yep. Okay. I think we have. Sorry about the dogs if you hear them. I think the mailman's here. 5 senior developers, and I'm not sure the mid-level junior breakup is between the rest on the team.
Okay, then there's one more question in the chat at the moment. Do you have documentation with cheat sheets and facts for developers?
We do. We have that is a good question. We have a like playbook, I believe we're calling it, but we have a website where we post guidance. We have recordings from our Friday Scrum sessions. But any kind of tips or tricks we post in our on our website where we can all search and look it up.